Hey guys, it's Mrs. Campbell. We are going to start chapter 8 of our accounting book. This is going to be a little bit weird, and that's okay. We're going to figure it out as we go along. Obviously, if you ever have any questions, you need to email me, and we can get that taken care of. How this is going to work is I'm going to go over some of the PowerPoint presentation with you, and then I'm going to have you do some of your exercises for me. And then we'll just kind of go from there once everybody's kind of at the same spot. We're going to go over the first two objectives today. Chapter 8 is about payroll accounting. Obviously, if you own your own business or you work for a company and you're in the accounting department, you might have to deal with payroll. If people work for you, you got to pay them. So we're going to figure out kind of how much we're going to pay our employees and what we have to deduct from that payroll. Because remember, there's taxes and other things that need to be taken out. So for our first objective, we need to distinguish between employees and independent contractors. This is really important because there are several laws that are put into place that will make it different deductions being taken out for your employees or independent contractors. So payroll costs are major expenditures for both businesses. That is a lot of money going out to people that are working to you. It's one of your biggest expenses as a company. We got to keep records of this, how much we're paying people. And this is a really big factor on whether or not we can handle how many people we have employed to us. There are laws put into place showing that we have to keep records because we do have to pay taxes on that. For each employee. So we have to have records for the business as a whole, and then we have to have records for how much money we're giving to each employee. So employee versus independent contractor. Employees, they are working under the control and direction of an employer. So they were hired by somebody within the company. They probably come to work every day for the company, or they work from home. So secretaries, sales clerk, plant supervisors, maintenance workers, teachers, maybe what your parents do. They are taking their direction from the company. Independent contractor, this is somebody who's just performing a specific service for a fee. The company might hire them just to do a certain project, to do a certain task. So example, lawyer, public accountant, real estate agent, a plumber, a contractor. They just need them for a certain amount of time. And once they're done with that, they're paid a fee, and then they kind of go on to their next deal. Employees, when you are dealing with payment, there's more laws and regulations. Taxes need to be taken out and given to the government. Records need to be maintained, and there's several different reports that you need to file. For independent contractors, there is just like one specific form showing that this is why you paid that person. So that's it on just kind of in between an employee and independent contractor. What we're going to specifically deal with in this chapter is our employees' earnings, but it's important to differentiate between an independent contractor and an employee. So the next learning objective is calculate an employee earnings and deductions. There's a couple different ways that we're going to maybe pay our employees. They're either going to maybe get a salary or a wage. Salary, this is a person gets paid, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, annual terms. When they get hired, the person is saying, hey, you're going to make $80,000 a year. And then they break it up into how much you make on, an annual or a monthly basis, a weekly basis, and then that's how you're paid. Wages, this is more expressed in terms of how many hours a week did you work, how many units were produced, did you, work more than what was scheduled, that type of thing. There's benefits to each one. It's just kind of depending on what type of job you have. One of the biggest laws that govern over employees is FLSA, or the Fair Labor Standards Act. If you work over 40 hours a week, you are technically working overtime. You are, eligible to get more money for working that overtime rate. Now, some salaried employees are exempt from LFSA rules. I am one of them. If I work 50 hours a week, I don't get paid that overtime. I don't clock in or clock out. I'm just expected to be there from this time to this time. If I stay later, my time is not compensated. This is one question that you need to ask when you're getting hired somewhere, is if you're eligible for overtime. So one of the biggest things that we're going to have to do is compute total earnings. If we're part of the payroll process, we got to figure out how much money they're going to be getting. Now, for me, it's pretty simple. Like when somebody calculates my earnings, like it's pretty much the same every single time. But when you have overtime or you work hourly, then that's when you have to compute the total wages, and I'm going to show you how to do that. If you work on an hourly basis, there's some way that they're going to have you clock in and out of when you go into work and when you leave. Sometimes they have time cards where you punch in. I worked for a place where there was a computer system. We had a login and username. There was a button that we clicked log in and then log out when we left. For our breaks as well. Some people have fingerprint stuff. It just depends. The hours worked are multiplied by the rate of pay to determine total earnings. So if you work 8 hours and you get $10 an hour, you earned $80 for that day. So an example, we worked 55 hours this week. Her regular rate of pay is $12 per hour. She's paid 1.5 times the regular rate for hours in excess of 8 on Monday through Friday, and any hours worked on Saturday, and twice the regular rate for hours on Sunday. Helen worked 4 hours on Sunday. So looking at this example, we know that she worked 55 hours. So she worked her 40 regular hours at $12 per hour. That's $480 for the week. So if she just would have worked 40 hours at a regular rate, she would have gotten $480. Now, we know that she worked 11 hours extra. So that would bring her up to 51 because she worked on Saturday. And she gets time and a half for Saturday. And the way we figure out the $18 per hour is we're going to take our regular rate, which is $12, times 1.5, and we get the $18 for her new hourly rate. So we took 11 times 18, and we got 198. Now, the reason I know that she worked 11 hours on Saturday was because it mentioned here that she worked 4 hours on Sunday. So, we need to figure out a different amount for her 4 hours that she worked on Sunday because she gets twice the amount. So we're going to take the 4 hours by 24 to get $96. So this is how much money she earned this week. We're going to add that up, and she received $774 for that total week. Very nice. This is also called gross pay. Gross pay is like the whole amount that you get before anything is taken out. This is really not how much you're bringing home. So sometimes it's a little sad when you see your net pay, which is what's after all the deductions. So let's go ahead and we're going to do another example. Let's say that you get a salary wage and you are eligible for overtime. There's a different way to go about figuring out how much you would make in overtime for your overtime wage. So Linda, she has a salary of $2,288 a month plus 1.5 times the regularly hourly rate for the hours in excess of 40 per week. So we have to do a little bit of math to figure out how much she actually makes an hour before we can figure out that 1.5 times. So the first step is to determine her annual salary. And I'm going to do that by taking her monthly pay, and I'm going to take it times 12 months because obviously there's 12 months in a year. So her annual pay is $27,456. I just took those two numbers by each other. The second thing we need to do is to determine her weekly salary. So we're going to take her annual pay, or her annual salary of $27,456 divided by 52 weeks, because there's 52 weeks in a year, and we get $528 pay per week. So that's how much she makes each week. Now that we know what she makes weekly, we can divide that by 40 hours per week, because that's on average what, a full work week is, full time. And we have found that she gets paid $13.20 regular hourly pay rate. So now, because we know her hourly rate, we can now figure out her overtime rate. So we're going to take 13.2 times 1.5, and we get the $19.80 overtime pay per hour. Okay, so that's where I think we're going to stop for right now. I'm going to have some examples, and I want you to compute the regular hours and overtime